What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I've got a brand new deck profile for you. This time we're looking at pure zombies. This is nothing I've ever built on the channel before myself. I've had friends that play zombies that have given their input on the channel before. But this one is actually my build with it, so it's like pure zombies, including the ELDLICH engine, because I think that's just crazy. I mean, when you think about it, like, people are gonna be mad because they don't get like crazy new zombie support, but like, we got the zombie horde structure deck like 2 years ago, and then we got the fucking ELDLICH engine this year. Like, Konami kind of like hooking it up for zombies low key. Like, they got some nice support. So today is my pure zombie deck profile. It's very, very cool. I think just zombies have extra synergy with ELDLICH that other engines that you could splash with ELDLICH don't have. So that's the advantage there. I don't think it's overall better than stuff like Dogmatica or Zoo ELDLICH. But I do think it's still strong in its own right and needs to be respected, because if you don't, it'll catch you off guard. So real quick before we head on, if you think this mat is dope, you have the Crypsedia Echomax on this side, Mekk-Knight Orcus Girsu on the other side. They look super, super clean. It's a double-sided mat. I'll leave the link in the description for it. Shout out to my boy Charles from Team COG. I have a 10% discount code that I'll also leave in the description, so check that out. And yeah, thank you on that. And let's move into the profile. Okay, so starting off with the monsters, we've got 3 copies of Uni and 2 copies of Solitaire. Sorry. I know what you might be saying is like, John, how can you not max out on these? Well, because the deck is like 50-50, like Zombie World and ELDLICH. Like, if you don't even see this part of your deck, like, you just like play pure ELDLICH essentially and grind out that way. So it's totally fine. You do not need that as a must-have. Regardless, but these are still very strong. They're just, you get a ton of value off of them. I actually think Solitaire is slightly more powerful, but Uni's a little more consistent because he loses to a couple less things, right? So very, very cool either way, but you got to play him because they're just so powerful, right? Uni's still one of the most scary normal summons. Like, if he resolves, like, you get so much advantage. It's scary. All right, and then for the rest of the Zombie Horde package, we have 2 copies of Glow Up Bloom. This card's insane. 1 copy of Mizuki, 1 copy of Necroworld Banshee, and 1 copy of Doom King Ballardrock. Now, I know this looks a little bit condensed. Sometimes you see double Banshee or double Mizuki or double Ballardrock, but again, that was in lists that didn't have ELDLICH before. That's how people built it before. This is not the main stake of the deck. The ELDLICH version, the ELDLICH half of the deck takes precedence, but this is just an additional engine that's very, very good and has awesome synergy. So you don't need to go super ham. If they banish this, it's fine. You have other win conditions. I get if you're scared, but I also just don't want to brick on Ballardrock. Not at all. So keep that in mind. But overall, I think these are very nice. Just one of each of these is like definitely the move, and I do like having 2 bloom though, because it's definitely a negate target when it tries to trigger. So having the second one's very, very nice, and it's kind of like a pseudo normal summon anyway. You know, in a lot of instances, it's just a free plus, right? All right, and then of course you play the 2 golden boys. Got the gold versions. He's clean. I mean, he's just good. I don't think I'd play more than 3. I don't think I'd ever play more than 2. Or I'm sorry, more than 2. I don't think I'd ever play more than 2 ELDLICH in a deck that's except for pure ELDLICH. If it's not pure, I'm probably playing 2 because I don't want to draw it as much. It's still a nice card to help you break a board going second, which I really like, but definitely not 100% necessary. So definitely liking this. 2 is perfect. And that is it for the zombie monsters. So not even going that hard. You got, what, 5, 10, 12 zombie monsters in the deck. Very, very nice. I like it, keeping it concise. Well, technically we got some more zombie monsters. The only other monsters we play are some hand traps. 3 Ash, 2 Bell. I almost thought about trying to play 3 Bell, but I ended on 2 anyway. The deck actually has some cool tools going second, but these are the only hand traps I play. I don't even play impermanence. They're good, and they have extra synergy with Ballardrock, where even if you don't have Zombie World up, you could just activate these on your opponent's turn to like disrupt them somehow, and then trigger Ballardrock to like banish something non-targeting, which is pretty good, right? So there's just extra synergy there. There's just extra little like interactions there that your opponent may not be ready for, because they just know, oh, I removed Zombie World, now his Ballardrock is off. Well, not exactly. It can be triggered the hard way if need be. But that is it for all the monsters in the deck. I believe it's 17 total. Moving on to the spells, we've got 3 copies of Cursed Eldland. Of course, got to play it. It's Eldritch deck. 1 copy of Black Awakening, and 2 copies of White Destiny. In this version, I do like 2 White Destiny. I know you might be looking at this and being like, what? But it's actually really cool because something that almost every other variant of Eldritch can't take advantage of is the extra effects of these cards. That people don't even realize they're there. Because they actually say, either special summon an Eldritch from wherever you want, right? Like this special's from deck, this special's from hand or grave, and Sanguine is from deck or grave as well, I believe. But they also say that if you already control an Eldritch monster, you can actually just special summon any zombie straight out of the deck. So you can special summon Uni, and then just start using Uni to just like start spamming a ton of advantage. You could summon Ballardrock just straight out of the deck. If you already have a Zombie World, already have the rest of the setup, you could just turbo out Ballardrock and then just move on from there. Like, there's a ton of good things. You have so many just targets. You just get a free monster off of these, and it's very, very strong. So I really like that, and White Destiny just is so good off of that. Like, your opponent thinks they've put away like an Eldritch, like this card can get him back, or if they think they've like beaten you by like getting Uni off the field and clearing your normal summon, well, this can just reborn Uni, right? Because some people, if they have like a Dryden and you go like normal summon Uni in the face of a Dryden, they'll just pop him, they'll just shotgun it, and then if I have Eldritch on board or something already, I can just already reborn Uni immediately and then just continue to just do the same thing. And just go through with my play, which is really, really cool. So it helps with the resiliency problem that Uni and Solitaire have, which a lot of times, if they're your normal summon and they get disrupted, most of the time you're just like, oh, I'm gonna pass. And that's not what you want, right? It's 2021. You just want to be able to play at all costs. That's what Yu-Gi-Oh is all about. All right, then to finish up here, 2 Zombie World. Not going to explain this too much. I feel like one's a little too fragile. If your opponent just removes one, then your Ballardrock can be turned off for the rest of the duel, so I do like having 2 just in case. And it makes it so that if you draw it plus Banshee, you could like activate 1 and then still have 1 in the deck so that later on if you need to use the Banshee you can, which is really nice. 1 Foolish Burial, you just get a ton of value off this. Send Eldritch, send Mizuki, send Banshee, send Ballardrock, right? There's infinitely good targets. Send Bloom if you already have the field spell, right? Very good. This is going to look a little weird, right? 1 Super Poly, 1 Cyclone, 1 Called by the Grave. I wanted some versatility in the rest of these spell slots here. Long story short, Super Poly is very cool, but I don't feel as confident in this build with it as far as like being in the main deck as I do with like a super pure zombie build. Where you're just playing like pure Zombie World. Like, we're not playing 3 Zombie World with 2 Banshee and maxing out on Uni and Solitaire. So I didn't feel super comfortable playing Super Poly at 3 in the main deck. But I did want to play 1 because 1, it's just a decent card going second versus matchups, and especially if you can get to Zombie World, it works versus every matchup, but also because it adds an extra out to Dragoon in our deck. And I'm not even talking about drawing this card, I'm just talking about Verte Anaconda becomes another out to Dragoon if need be, and otherwise that card's like really annoying for this deck. So yep. Cosmic Cyclone, this is kind of just the last slot in the deck. I had 1 extra slot. I was like, I don't really want to play the second Super Poly. I'd play it in the other 2 in the side. So let's just play Cosmic. It's just a really good card in the format. So flexible, works against almost every single deck, and yeah, really nice. And then the Called, again, like Uni and Solitaire is still pretty fragile, so just helping us with getting like ashed and stuff on those is really nice. So yeah, that finishes up the spells. Very, very nice there. Moving on to the traps, we start off with 3 Scarlet Sanguine, of course, 3 Conquistador, and 3 Hawkero. I don't think I really need to explain these. I'm not playing Golden Land Forever in this list. I easily could have. I just felt like it's a little more bricky, like it's just a brick, really. Like, you have to draw it with an immediate way to put Eldritch on the board. And you do have to give up the Eldritch body on board too, which kind of like takes away from your advantage. So I felt like overall, like, it's probably best to just like hold off on the Golden Land Forever. I'd still consider it. Maybe there'll be formats where it as a disruption is just so much more superior than like Conch and Hawkero that you want it just to have like a really good disruption for certain situations. But these are plenty good. These actually rotate into more cards, and it's insane. So there is that. Which then takes us to the last two cards in the deck. Pretty plain and simple. Solemn Strike. I mean, yeah, you could put a lot of different stuff here. This could be 2 more Cosmic Cyclones. Like I said, very good in the format. I wouldn't blame somebody for trying to like move in with that strategy and just go in with the back row hate. Because back row is pretty tough for this deck to play into going second. But I also just like Solemn Strike because it's one of the best traps that you can be able to set going second. I felt like just having those 9 Eldritch traps didn't feel like enough. And so I wanted just one more like really powerful trap. This could be Ice Dragon's Prison if you want. It could be something else. It really could. And that's up to you if you want to swap this out for something. I went with Strike. I love Strike. I think it's just such a powerful card, and I wanted to throw it in here. So that is the last card in the list. 40 cards on the dot. I wanted to keep it consistent. I wanted to make sure we're seeing our zombie engine as much as possible, especially because we have like no draw power in the deck. So what you open is what you open. You got to use that to make the resources come. And so, yeah, I just want to keep it concise and consistent. But that is it there. Moving on to the extra deck. Obviously, the Link Karibo, this is just for Bloom. You link off Bloom. If you have the field spell, you can special summon a level 5 or higher zombie. If not, you're just going to add it to hand. So if you're adding it to hand, you're almost always adding Eldritch, not Ballardrock. These are, and I regret to do, I hate this. I hate that I had to proxy these because I really shouldn't have needed to. But pretty much I had the Eldritch core, but I didn't have the Zombie Horde core because it actually has been rising in price like crazy. Like Banshee's just like $9, Ballardrock's like $7 or $8, Bloom's a couple bucks. And what's the other one? Right, isn't there one other that's like pretty expensive? Did I say Bloom? Oh, and Solitaire. Solitaire is also like $5 for the common. It's crazy, right? So I ended up borrowing from a friend, and I just completely whiffed and forgot to ask him about borrowing a couple extra deck cards. So I am missing some of the zombie extra deck cards, but these are Zombie Sucker and Avenged Savior. Pretty standard. Like, they're just great cards. Like Sucker, you just gets you free draws. She is your draw power in your deck, which is really good. And then you have the Avenged Savior. He attacks a monster, like dumps a zombie, and then like I think does he raise himself or lower your opponent? I can't remember, but he in the damage step he like buffs himself, I think, by the level of the monster times 100 or 200. So kind of cool. You just go battle phase, get an extra dump of a zombie, and then also beat over something. So very nice utility there. For some generic stuff, 1 Halki Fibrax. This is really cool because Bloom is a tuner. So is Uni, but you're not really going to be summoning Uni off this. The goal is just like you send some stuff with Uni while putting another body on the board. Then you link into Halk, and then Halk summons Bloom, which means you can link off your Bloom, and then Bloom will get you a Ballardrock straight from deck because your Uni's probably already got you the field spell. Which is great. So then you have this and the Ballardrock and probably a Link Karibo. So it's actually pretty good and just makes it for some real good resource efficient plays. 1 Verite Anaconda. Like I said, this is pretty much solely here to dump the Super Poly to rip at least 1 monster off your opponent's board, which is non-targeting removal, I might add. So it's an Outer Dragoon, and it turns something dark. So like it being a dark means that no matter what, you can at least make a Starving Venom, right? Even if they don't have a dark monster, you use the effect to make their monster dark, then you just Super Poly them both away. You don't have to discard because you don't pay cost when you use him for the Super Poly, which is really nice. And he just gives a little bit of extra like outs to certain things like Dragoon. If you can just play through the negate, make the Anaconda, you can remove the Dragoon. And if they had an extra monster, you could actually end up summoning Trifia Veritum, which is then removing 2 monsters while also making a negate from a summon of a monster from the extra deck, which is pretty cool. So has a nice utility slot in the deck, I think. Then we have some basic stuff, IP, Phoenix, and Unicorn. These are pretty self-explanatory. IP for certain hands or turns where you can just make her so that you can Unicorn your opponent. Maybe if you have Ballardrock in the hand, you want to just be able to discard him if you can. Same thing with Phoenix, but also just adds a little back row removal. This deck really struggles with back row removal, so Phoenix is probably a must in the deck, and also gets you a discard. There's a lot of cards that aren't the greatest to draw in this deck, but discarding them just gets you value there. It's really good. For Link 4s, I'm just playing Avermax and Boral Sword. If I have access code. I say this on almost any video. I'm probably playing it here, so I could take like 2 Link 2s up into it instead of having to take 3 different monsters, but the same purpose is kind of just kill your opponent's your OTK card. And then this is my defensive one. You could play Appaloosa instead. I just kind of have a soft spot for Avermax. Like, the amount of times I've just made Avermax and my opponent didn't have an out for him was like, it just makes me want to lean on this card whenever it comes to like decisions like that in deck building. But yep, that's just me. And then we finish up here with some fusions and synchros. This is the only other card I'm missing here. This is the Draco Necro Nether Soul Dragon. He just takes any 2 zombies. So while you have a zombie world up on the field, you can super poly any deck in the game. So that's why he's there. 1 starting Venom, 2 Darks. Mud Dragon, 2 monsters with the same attribute but different types. Very nice. And then Trifia Veritum. So just for the higher ceiling play, like if you can make Anaconda and your opponent has like a dark and a non-dark, or even just 2 darks, you can make Trifia Veritum with is like the highest ceiling. So you can rip 2 to even potentially 3 monsters if you, depending on the situation, to then make a 3,000 body that can negate the summon of a monster from the extra deck, which is just wild. Like if that resolves, like it's hard to lose those kinds of duels, right? Because you just had such a huge swing in your direction. But yeah, I wanted to have a little more versatility here just for that added benefit. And like I said, I would side the other 2 super polys for when you're in matchups that they're like particularly good in. Just because they're just, it's busted, man. Like if you can just make super poly work consistently, it's like busted. You play it, right? And then the last card I play is one TG Wonder Magician. All she's there for is when you do the Hulk combo, you usually link off Bloom. And when Bloom uses her effect, she actually locks you into zombies for the rest of the turn. So you're going to end with Hulk on board, which means you kind of want to like, I kind of wanted to play a card or 2 that could give me a little bit of additional value off of that, where Hulk can like tag out on my opponent's turn to at least summon her. She's a 1900 body that on summon will pop a back row. Keep in mind, her back row pop effect is mandatory. So if your opponent has none, you have to pop one of your own. So just be careful with that. But that's pretty nice. I mean, like we said, like other than Drytron, like every single deck that is any kind of notable plays some kind of spell and trap card. So she just has actually like some pretty good utility there. And 1900 is a decent body, helps you apply pressure on the next turn as well. So I kind of wanted to play one more card, like maybe Formula Synchron. Like if I don't have something really good to pop, I can just make like Formula and draw, like just try and dig deeper for something, for some extra advantage. But I just kind of ran a little tight on space, but it's definitely something I would take note of, and let you guys know that that is something that I would look at potentially making room for in the future. And maybe that's just a little bit of like looking at the extra deck, seeing what I really need. If there's anything I don't need and I can drop for that slot, like maybe I would consider doing that. But that's where I'm at with zombies. I think this is a really fun deck. I think if you've always been like a pure zombie fan, I think the development of the ELDLICH engine, especially with the gold reprint, making ELDLICH so affordable now, that engine, even Black Awakening, hopefully you already had one, because now it's like 20, 25 bucks or whatever for no reason. Nobody plays more than one of that card. So that's ridiculous, but whatever. And yeah, hopefully this is a cool profile to give you at least like a shell of what you could do to try and build like all the zombie, you know, just generic zombie good cards together into a more cohesive strategy. And hopefully this will help you do that. But that's going to do it for me here, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. As always, let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this build? What are your thoughts on zombies? Are there any cards that you would suggest me teching in, if possible? What's good in the meta? Maybe there's just more engine stuff that I didn't consider that could still be really good. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, because I'm just one guy at the end of the day trying to build these decks the best that I can. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. I will catch you in the next video, and peace.